I have been doing a session for Sirah Nabi at Abdullah Quilliam, and it is a discussion session rather than a teaching session. I have no qualification to do this. I'm not a sheikh, I'm not an alim. If Allah considers me to be a lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then I would be more than pleased. So that said, we will start off this session. I must say that I was a little apprehensive doing a Siratul Nabi session during Ramadan because we tend to prioritize Quran over everything else. But Hamza asked me to do this session, and I could not say no to him because he works so hard day and night to try and get these things done at Abdullah Quilliam. So alhamdulillah, I decided to do it. So I said to Hamza that I will speak on what I consider to be two events in this life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that has changed our lives. And you will say, everything that happened in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam changed our lives. That is true. But this is a personal view of two events that changed our lives, I think. The first is what followed after the year of huzn, the year of sadness to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Why was it called the year of huzn? Because he sallallahu alayhi wasallam lost his protector and his uncle Abu Talib. And you and I might think protection. Why protection? Because this was a time 440 years ago in the deserts of Arabia where there was no law except for the tribe. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was preaching to his tribe who were completely opposed to what he was saying. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam was saying there is one God worthy of worship and nobody else. And Muhammad is his abd and his Rasul. And they did not agree with this. And they were prepared to harm him in any way they could. And in the end, if necessary, kill him. And when I was a young boy and even a young man, I did not fully understand what this meant. I just read in a book, they were prepared to kill him. They were really prepared to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And believe me, they were. If you stood on the road and saw a car charging at you to kill somebody, that is what they were doing to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And his protector from this was Abu Talib. The law of the land was that the tribal chief, if he gave protection, you could not do anything to him. And so they could not do anything to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They had to put up with it, though they did not like it. And when Abu Talib died, then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was in trouble. It was also called the year of huzn because he sallallahu alayhi wasallam lost the person who was closest to him and who supported him through thick and thin with money and with psychological support, and that was Khadija radiallahu anha. And she passed away, and according to some narrations, 10 days after Abu Talib. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was really in trouble at this stage. Who took over the tribe of Banu Hashim? Can anybody suggest a name? Abu Lahab, his uncle sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Abu Lahab was no lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the law of the land was that you respected your tribal chief when he was there, and you respected your tribal chief when he was gone. So Abu Talib gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam protection from the people who were going to harm him. And Abu Lahab said, I will give him the protection that he got from my brother Abu Talib. And that was what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received. Abu Jahl was unhappy about this. And Abu Jahl thought that he would get this protection removed. So he said to Abu Lahab, go and find out what he has to say about Abdul Muttalib. Yeah, Abdul Muttalib. That was the grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and who was probably the tribal chief extraordinaire. Yeah, he was the one who was highly respected, not just amongst the Banu Hashim, not just amongst the Quraysh, but the length and breadth of Arabia. He was famous and respected. And so Abu Lahab went and asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what do you have to say about Abdul Muttalib? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could see that this was a trick question. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam with great wisdom said, he is with his people. And Abu Lahab was happy with this. He is with his people. And he went back to Abu Jahl and said, I'm happy with what he said. He said, Abdul Muttalib is with his people. And Abu Jahl said, oh, you fool, do you not understand what that means? What that means is because he sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that the mushriks will be in hell. So he said, what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is telling you is that Abdul Muttalib is in hell. That's what he said. So Abu Lahab immediately decided that this made sense to him, and he withdrew his protection. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was in a land where he was preaching to the mushriks the oneness of Allah and that Muhammad is his abd and his Rasul, and they were viciously opposed to it, and they were prepared to kill. He now, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, did not have a protector. So what did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam do? He thought he would go to Taif to see if Taif will give him some protection. And what actually happened was that the tribal chiefs of Taif, who were 3 in number, brothers, they decided that they would pull together their leadership so that they do not fight with each other over the tribal chief's position. And the 3 of them, they rejected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a way that was quite derogatory. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then left the room, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the tribal chiefs, very well, you have rejected me, but do not let Quraysh know about it. Because he had left Mecca and come to Taif, and he has to re-enter Mecca, and he had no protector. So the tribal chief said, very well, we will grant you that. And according to the Sirah of Ibn Ishaq, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not go immediately back to Mecca. He tried to invite the residents of Taif to Islam. And that is when the people were frightened that this was going to become a problem, and they stoned Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam out of Taif. And all of us know that story. And who was accompanying Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? It was Zayd bin Haritha, his adopted son. So that is where he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was no protector. Abu Lahab had rejected him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he had to go back into Mecca. And the narrations say that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent word to the various chiefs of Mecca, Walid ibn Mughira, for example, and to the father of Amr ibn al-As, yeah, and other chiefs, other tribal chiefs, and they all rejected him. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent word to Mut'im ibn Adi. Yeah? Some have pronounced it as Mut'im ibn Adi or Adi. He was the chief of Banu Makhzum. Does anyone know a big person in Banu Makhzum? Abu Jahl. Yeah? So Mut'im ibn Adi was the chief of Banu Makhzum. And he decided that he would protect Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And what did he do? He had sons. So he sent the sons. Did he send one son? No. Did he send two sons? No. Did he send three sons? No. He had 4 sons, and he sent his 4 sons. And he asked them to wear their battle gear, go to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, bring him into Mecca, because he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was just outside Mecca. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would do tawaf around the Kaaba, and these 4 sons in battle gear went round with him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, at a distance to show the people of Mecca that Mut'im ibn Adi is giving Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam protection. And that was why he was able to get back into Mecca. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam wanted to continue to spread the message of Islam. But he sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew that Mut'im ibn Adi was an old man. And in fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam acted with great hukum, with great wisdom, with great wisdom. And because, as you know, Badr occurred 2 years after Hijrah, and by that time Mut'im ibn Adi was dead. Yeah? So if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam stayed there in Mecca without protection, he would have been in difficulty. And there are lessons to be taken in the Sirah. Yeah? They are not just stories. Yeah? They are stories which should inform us and give us a way of living our lives. Everybody knows that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one person who Allah will protect. But he sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say, I will be protected. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam planned. When he went to Taif, he did not ask any Sahaba to come with him. He asked Zayd bin Haritha. Taif was some distance from Mecca. He decided not to take a camel or a horse. He went walking, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with Zayd bin Haritha from Mecca to Taif. So he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, always acted with wisdom and planning. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect him. But that is not the way he conducted himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He planned and then tawakkal ala Allah. That is what we should be doing. So there is a lesson to be learned from this. Okay. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returns to Mecca, and he thinks that he should be careful and seek protection. Now, all of us know that up to this point, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he appealed to the tribes, and he appealed to the various people and invited them to Islam. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not ask them to adopt him. Now, after the 10th year of the da'wah, of the open da'wah, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam decided to ask people not just to invite them to Islam, but to ask them whether they would adopt him. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam went to the major tribes and he said, the Quraysh have been wicked towards me. They will not allow me to spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are the words, and he invites them to Islam. And then he says, will you adopt me? Will you accept me into your tribe? Now, this was something that was known amongst the Arabs, but it was not common. For example, Salama, who is one of our mothers, Salama, her first husband was Abu Salama. Abu Salama was not of the Quraysh. He was from outside. Salama was from the Quraysh. But he married Salama and he was adopted by the Quraysh. Yeah? So it was like that. It was known quite often to do with marriages, sometimes with politics, but this was not a widely held thing. But on this occasion, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam invited these tribes to adopt him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And there are two big tribes that he went to. One was called the Kinda tribe, and it has been said that the tribe was, according to some narrations, it was the Kinda tribe. According to another, it is called, a tribe called Banu Amr ibn Sa'sa'. Now, they were a tribe who were an ancient tribe. They actually had a kingship in ancient times. They were a powerful tribe, but they had been defeated very much, and they were no longer in power. But these people, we think they were rubbish people. They were not rubbish people. They were people who thought about their history, and these people knew their history, and they knew that they were a powerful tribe, and they wanted to get back that power. And so when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went to one of them, he said, very well, this is an interesting message. Will you repeat this message to the other tribal chiefs if I took you there? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said yes. So he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was presented to all the chiefs of the tribe, either Banu Amr ibn Sa'sa' or the Kinda tribe. One of these two. There are narrations reporting both tribes. Now remember, their interest was to win over all the Arabs. The interest of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was very different. His interest sallallahu alayhi wasallam was to invite them to Islam and to recognize the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he finished the message, they said, very well, this is a very interesting message, and we think that this is a message with which we can rule over the Arabs, because it's a completely new message, and we can be a powerful power in Arabia. And they said, for as long as you are alive, we are happy for you to be the king or the leader of our group. But when you die, will you pass it on to us? And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam immediately recognized the difference in where he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was going and where this tribe was going. This tribe was interested in politics. He was interested in the oneness of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That's what he was interested in. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to the Kinda tribe, the ard, the land is that belongs to Allah. Allah will give it to who He decides. I cannot give you an answer, yes, to that. And so they said, very well, we have no interest in you. Are you telling us that we put our heads on the chopping block and have our necks cut off, and at the end of it, you continue to rule? We have no interest, go away. So he sallallahu alayhi wasallam was rejected. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam walked out of the place, unrepentant, very happy, and another tribe that he went to, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was Banu Shaiba ibn Thalaba. Yeah, Banu Shaiba ibn Thalaba. Now they were again a great tribe, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam appealed to them, and to cut a long story short, basically they were more polite. They said, this is an interesting message. We have met you for the first time. I think it will be not a very good thing for us to say yes to this, because we might regret it and you might regret it. And one of the chiefs said, what about our chief in charge of wars and defense? And that chief said, very well, we are a tribe that have much to do with the Arabs, and we also have very much to do with Kisra, that is the leader of the Persians. And we have an agreement with Kisra that we will be equipoised, we will stay neutral in all matters. And I do not think that Kisra will like this. And as for the Arabs, we have no problem with the Arabs. We can deal with the Arabs. So if we accept this message, then it will be only down south in Arabia and not all the time. So basically, they were going to be Muslims half of the time, yeah? And non-Muslims, it is yeah? So they were suggesting that they would be Muslims part of the time. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam politely declined, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam left. So now he has approached the large tribes, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam has not got a yes from them, and he left. And somewhere along the way, we don't know what was the gap between this meeting and what I'm describing now. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam was walking down Mina, the desert, and there were 4 people, according to some narrations, 6 people. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam stopped and said, "Min al-qawm, man al-qawm, from which qawm?" And they said, "We are from Khazraj." Yeah, because according to some narrations, there were 4, and in that narration, these 4 were from a tribe called Khazraj in Yathrib. And according to another narration, there were 4 from Khazraj and 2 from Aus. They were all from Yathrib. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked if he could speak with them, and they said yes. And he invited them to Islam. And some narrations say they accepted Islam. Others say they went back to Yathrib with an openness, yeah, that their hearts were open to Islam. We don't know the details of what happened. It appears that they became Muslims because they went back to Yathrib, and there were 6 people, and the year after that, 12 people came from Yathrib, and they were Muslims. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had not sent any messengers to Yathrib. So if 12 Muslims suddenly appeared, and that was the largest amount of Muslims from in one go, 12 people, they at least 1 or 2 of them must have become Muslims. Yeah? Now going back to Yathrib, this land of Yathrib, what was happening in Yathrib? I think we'll try and finish in 15 minutes. Yeah? I was hoping to speak about 2 incidents, but I think we'll have to stop at 1 incident that changed our lives. Rasulullah Yathrib. In Yathrib, Yathrib was a city close to Mecca, and there were Jews and there were Arabs. And the Arabs were largely from two main tribes, Khazraj and Aus. And they had a relationship with the Jews of Medina, of what was then called Yathrib. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam migrated to Yathrib, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam changed the name to Madinati Rasulullah. Yeah? So before that, it was Yathrib. And there were the Jews who were in three main groups, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza. Yeah? And the two Arab tribes were Khazraj and Aus. And the Khazraj and Aus had a vicious war that lasted well over 5 years. In fact, this war was being fought when Abu Talib was still alive. And Sidna Aisha radiallahu anha said that this war, which was called the War of Bu'ath, Wars of Bu'ath, was a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because what happened was that the Khazraj and the Aus, they fought themselves to a standstill virtually. And they killed almost all the tribal chiefs except for one. Does anyone know the name of the person who was not killed? He was a great warrior, but he was not a good man. He was Abdullah ibn Huyay. Yeah? He subsequently became the leader of the Munafiqeen. Yeah? And he was so opposed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam because he would have been the unchallenged leader of Yathrib had Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam not arrived in Yathrib. So he became a problem. But anyway, it was to say that the Khazraj and the Aus, they had fought pitched battles. And the Yahud, the Jews of Yathrib, they were highly educated. They had a book. They spoke of a Rasul, of Musa. And they said, we have been told that there will be a Rasul to come, and when he comes, we will destroy you to the last man. And they used to say this to the Arabs. Yeah? And this is mentioned not in Hadith, this is mentioned in Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah. So the Khazraj and the Aus, they knew. The Meccans, they did not know what a Rasul was. But the Khazraj and the Aus, they were living amongst the Jews of Yathrib, and they knew about a Rasul and what a message is, what a book is, and what the rules of a book are. So these 6 people who Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam met in the desert, in Mina actually, it was in Mina, and they did not even have a tent, they were just seated on the roadside, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke with them. Now again, another lesson. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was approaching the high and the mighty and asking them if they would adopt him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He met 4 wretched people, and he gave them the same importance, and he invited them in the same way. And they went away. And the following year, 12 people came back. And those 12 people, they came and they actually took a bay'ah from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and became Muslims. They took a bay'ah. They were Muslims already when they came. And this is called the Bay'atul Aqba al-Ula, the first, and it was also called Bay'atul Aqba al-Nisa, because there was no requirement for them to protect Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or there was no talk of war and so it was also called Bayat al-Nisa. So these 12 people, they went back to Yathrib, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent one Sahaba to teach them Quran and Islam and all of it. And what was his name? Mus'ab ibn Umair. Yeah? Now Mus'ab ibn Umair would therefore be the first immigrant who went on Hijrah to Yathrib, to Medina. What was it? And it is said that within a year, there was not a single locality in Yathrib that did not have a Muslim. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam got about 200 people to convert to Islam in the 13 years that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam put out the message of Islam. And in Yathrib, in 1 year, Mus'ab bin Umair had got almost the same number. Almost the same number. Now we need to be careful about the adab talking about this. Yes? It is not that Mus'ab bin Umair was a better da'wah person than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. No one did da'wah better than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But the ground to which he appealed was different. The mushriks were, they were just totally blinded. Their hearts were completely closed to Islam. But in Yathrib, the people who in Yathrib, they knew of what a Rasul was, of a book, and they accepted it more easily. And at the following year, 72 people came over to Mecca at the time of Hajj. And there were notable people here like Ka'b bin Malik, who were there amongst the 12. And this time, it is said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we would meet on the last night of Hajj. We would meet and discuss things and finalize things. Basically, what the people of Yathrib were saying, how long will we tolerate this? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam going from one valley to the other, asking for protection and not receiving any. Yeah? And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam is always under attack. How long will we accept this situation? Why don't we call Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and we protect him? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not ask for the protection in this case. On previous occasions, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked the other tribes for protection. But in this case, in the case of Yathrib, the people of Yathrib invited Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to come, and we will protect you. So that was, and it is said that the Muslims did not inform their relations and friends that they were Muslims at the time. And 72, or according to some narrations, 75 people went to the meeting in the early hours of the morning on the last day of Hajj. And it is said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went with his uncle Abbas, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam took Ali radiallahu anhu and Hamza radiallahu anhu to guard the two ends of the valley. Again, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam takes precautions and tawakkal ala Allah. Yeah? So, we need to learn lessons from the Sirah, not just take a story. And Abbas radiallahu anhu said, who are these people, my nephew? Who are these people? I don't recognize any of these people. Yeah? Because they were not the people that Abbas had met. Abbas was a famous merchant. He had been to Yathrib. He had dealt with these people, but he dealt with the tribal chiefs and people. These were all young people. And the ways of the Jahiliyyah was that the tribal chiefs were the people who gave protection and did things, not young 25-year-olds. Yeah? And all these people were young people. And incidentally, amongst the 72 or the 75 people, there were 2 women. Yeah? That is to say, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say, do not bring the women. Yeah, there were two women, and one was Asma ibn Amr, and the other one was Nusayba bin Ka'b. Now, very little is known about Asma. Very little is known about Asma. There is no recorded. But Nusayba, she is a lady who was actually injured in battle at the Battle of Uhud. So she was actually taking part actively, and she's certainly fought in the wars of Ridda, and so there were women who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not encourage the women to fight in the battles. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not push that forward. But there were these women who were recorded in reliable narrations to have fought. By and large, the women played nursing roles. But there were two women in this, and they also gave the bay'ah on this night. And to really shorten a very detailed story, the Sahabas, they stood up, and one of the Sahabas, whose name was Asad ibn Zarara, he said, "O people, be careful. Do not be hasty in giving your bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know he is the Rasul. We have come all the way from Yathrib to protect him. But if you cannot remember that if we take this bay'ah, we will lose men, and there will be orphans, and there will be widows. And if you are not prepared for that, do not give your bay'ah. Perhaps Allah will forgive you. But if you are sure, then give it." And one of the other Sahaba said, "Oh, Asad bin Zarara, take your hands off. We want to give the bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." So the 72 or the 75 people came and gave their bay'ah, and the bay'ah was, we will accept Islam and we will follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all matters that are good, and we will protect him if he is attacked. We will protect him if he is attacked the way we will protect our children and our wives. That was the bay'ah. Yeah? And so that was the beginning of the hijrah to Yathrib. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then invited his sahabas to go on hijrah to Yathrib. Yeah? And I say that this is a matter that has changed our lives, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was fleeing for his life, virtually fleeing for his life, when he met 4 people, or according to some narrations, 6 people. And today, because of the help of these 4 people, or the 6 people, mandated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because 6 people did not give protection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made those 6 people give protection. Yeah? You and I, we did not get to our points of influence and power by ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in there, and He subhanahu wa ta'ala can take us out of there. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it possible for these 6 people or 4 people to accept the message of Islam. And it grew, and it grew. And today, how many are there? 2 billion Muslims. You and I would not be Muslims today if those 4 people did not accept Islam. Yeah? So I wanted to speak about 2 incidents. I do not think I had the time, and we will stop there. Bismillah wa subhanallah wa alhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Oh Allah, ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. Oh Allah, please protect us from doing things that displease you. Oh Allah, make it easy for us to do things that please you. Oh Allah, please accept our siyam and our salah and our ibadah in this blessed month of Ramadan. Oh Allah, protect us from our right and from our left, from in front and from behind, from above and from below, from doing things that displease you. Oh Allah, please protect the Muslims wherever we are trampled upon, wherever we are in trouble, in Syria, in Turkey, in Palestine, in Iraq, in Kashmir, in India, in Afghanistan, amongst the Uyghurs in China, in Myanmar, wherever we are trampled upon. Oh Allah, please protect your Masjid al-Aqsa from your enemies. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, please accept whatever we do here in this month of Ramadan, and please forgive our sins, and please make it possible for us to walk in your path beyond this Ramadan, up to the next Ramadan. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakallah khairan.